All right, so as promised, the acting against strategy for fear. So, what does fear want us to do? It wants us to run, it wants us to hide, it wants us to beg, it wants us to cry, it wants us to tremble. Those are the action urges that are associated with fear. Okay? There are a lot of times when it makes perfect sense to be afraid. If you encounter something that's dangerous, if you're being attacked, it makes sense that you would feel fear, okay? Maybe there are times when you want to give in to the action urge associated with fear. You see someone coming down the road with a gun, or you see someone driving crazy on the road, you might want to get away from that. So no problem. That makes perfect sense to follow that action urge. But there might be times when you feel fear and it either doesn't make sense because there's really nothing to be afraid of. For me, think of phobias like people afraid to ride an elevator, or people afraid to take a plane, or to go outside, or fear of certain foods that are harmless. It doesn't make sense to feel fear in that situation, and so you might want to act against it. And usually the treatment for that is some sort of desensitization process, where you just gradually expose yourself more and more to the thing that you're afraid of until the fear of it goes away. You see that it's safe, and not just see that it's safe, but you have the experience of it being safe. So eventually working up to the point where you're riding an elevator and seeing that it's not gonna, cause you to plummet to your death, and same with a plane, or same with certain foods, or same with going outside. It's not going to kill you, and you see that and you live it and experience it and you start to believe it, right? So times when it just flat doesn't make sense to be afraid, but then times when it might make sense to be afraid, but it's not going to serve you to give in to that action impulse. And you can think of, anything hard that anyone's ever done, especially if it involved potential physical injury or even potential death. Like, imagine a first responder of some kind, or a person in the military who's being asked to go into a dangerous situation. Makes perfect sense to be afraid, and often have heard from guys like that they are, and women like that who are afraid, but they still have to move forward. They still have to go, because that's their job. That's what they're there to do. And more than it just being their job, it's what their values are telling them to do. They took that job because they wanted to serve, they wanted to protect, they wanted to be the one that ran towards the danger instead of away from the danger. And that's kind of what they're all about. And so, yes, they feel afraid, but they have to act brave, because that's what the situation calls for. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, where it either doesn't make sense to feel fear, or it does make sense, but your values compel you to act against the fear and to engage with the thing that you are afraid of, then here are some acting against strategies. So as I mentioned, you can act brave. You don't feel brave, but act brave. Do what you'd do if you were brave. You can maintain your boundaries and limits. So this could be if there's some kind of a threat that's wanting you to, do something that you think is wrong. You can imagine being a part of an organization that's asking you perhaps to lie about something, or to do something kind of shady. And the threat is, if you don't do it, you're going to be fired. Well, you might need, even though you're afraid, you might need to maintain your boundaries, maintain your limits in the face of that pressure. Approach and engage with what you're afraid of, and do it over and over. That's that exposure, kind of desensitization process through exposure, continued exposure, increasing exposure over time. And so, that's something that you can do. You can imagine, perhaps you're in a job where there's a certain demographic that you're afraid of working with. A certain type of people, a certain type of place, certain thing that you're afraid of, and yet because of your values, you're compelled to engage with it. You might just need to approach it little by little, be exposed to it more and more until you're no longer afraid. You might consider getting help for your fear. Connect with a a coach or a therapist or somebody like that who can help you confront your fear. And then that bodily aspect of, you want to take on the posture of someone who's not afraid. So square, confident posture, making eye contact with the thing that you are afraid of. Just like the facial muscles, just telling the brain that we're happy, even though you might be feeling sad. Same thing with your body posture. Fear wants you to kind of shrink back and look away. Instead, face it squarely. That'll be the thing that helps you to feel brave, even though you're feeling afraid in the moment. All right. So those are some acting against strategies for fear. And in the next video, we'll talk about acting against strategies for the emotion of disgust. So I will see you in that one.